I'm going to be quite bold and say that there's one thing that we've got wrong about vibration. Hey, look, don't get me wrong, I love law of attraction just as much as any other man. But there are some things that we perhaps recognise inside of ourselves, the further we go down this path, about law of attraction and vibration, and is there really a link? Sometimes we have this belief system inside of ourselves, don't we? That if I have a really high vibration all of the time, I'm going to attract loads of really lovely things. And this is a little bit, well, it's okay, you know, but it can be maybe a bit insincere after a while, right? You know, it's good at the start because it's always got to be about manifestation, right? Otherwise, us humans don't tend to listen or learn. My teacher always used to say, humans don't tend to make a change unless it hurts them in the pocket first. And that's kind of the same in reverse, isn't it? Humans don't tend to want to change unless they get something out of it. And this is why perhaps it's designed that way. The law of attraction in the first instance, we brought in on the idea of we can have everything that we want. Now, listen, that is, in a sense, true. There's a great saying, a man far greater than I said once, and he said, seek the kingdom of God first, and everything you want and more will be added onto you. And we think, oh great, wow, if Jesus said it, then it's true. And it is. But it doesn't mean what we think. I must tell you a story about what's happened to me, but before I do that, first let me introduce you to a range of offerings that we have down below. Most of them free. There's a free yoga course, free introduction to hatha yoga, free breathing practice that's sure to wake up some prana inside of the system. There's a free community on Discord or Facebook to engage with like-minded souls. And there's also a coaching form which is free to fill out if you want to apply for one-to-one coaching, but the coaching itself isn't free because naturally I'm human and need to live and eat and survive in this world. So I'm going to tell you a story, back to the video, about my life, and it's really begun to really shunt me in a different direction. I will openly admit, because it's good to admit when we're wrong, that I was wrong. I had this belief system that if I just kept my vibration really high inside of myself, I would get loads of lovely things. And to be honest with you, for a while that was really true. It was all about how I could reframe situations mentally inside of myself to keep that vibration, meaning that nice feeling inside. And when you feel good, you tend to attract really cool stuff, and that is true. So I'm not saying that law of attraction doesn't exist and there isn't a connection between law of attraction and vibration, because there is. But, name of my first book. I always say that to clients because everyone goes, yeah, but, and they bring their own element in, which I just think is really fun. So that would be the name of my first book. I'll put it here. Somebody wrote very kindly in the comments, I'd love to read your book if you ever wrote a book. And I was sat there flat, like, I wouldn't know what to talk about, but I do know what to call it. But, ... So, it is true that law of attraction and law of vibration are connected, but I had a car crash the other week. It was my fault, technically, because I was reversing out into a road, and we're all fine, you know, me and the girlfriend were fine, and the other people in the car were fine too. The car wasn't, that's been written off. But let's assess this situation, because that day I was feeling pretty good. All right, there might have been a little bit of agitation in the system, but nothing that would have warranted a car crash. I was feeling pretty buzzy, quite happy throughout the day, as I naturally do after I've done my yoga. And we had this car crash. And so it made me revisit, readjust, reassess my belief systems around law of attraction, because I was pretty much feeling on a pretty good vibe that day. Yet a car crash happened. So sometimes we think that we can use the law of attraction as a control technique. And then we know the ego's involved, don't we? We sometimes put out to the universe that we want something, and then we get a bit aggy when we don't get it, or we get really angry when things happen to us that aren't necessarily the most positive. Now, I must tell you, thanks to the yogic training, I can't claim any ownership over this because there wasn't really a me in it. But when that crash happened, all there was peace. Strange, right? One of the craziest things that can ever happen to a person, and all there was peace. Somehow, something maintained a peaceful, positive attitude, feeling-wise, inside the system. And I got out of the car, walked to the other person, and dealt with the situation. He actually called me up later, a few days ago, and says, thank you for being so cool. Like, who does that after a car crash? Who gets a call? Well, me, apparently. So, after that situation, people were coming up to me and said, I don't know how you managed to stay so peaceful. And I sat there and was like, I know how, I'm not going to tell you because nobody wants a lecture about yoga on the streets. Regardless, that situation had came about not because I'd attracted it through my vibration. Now let's just create a distinction here. Let's talk about destiny. And let's say there are some things on our path karmically that we are just going to rub up against anyway because we have to. It's part of our karma, it's part of our path. Well, then we have the idea perhaps that a vibration is maybe like one of those toys that you wind up. Remember you had them as a kid, if you were a 90s kid? You'd wind it up and then it would go and then it would stop. It had finished its half-life, its timeline in that sense. Well, let's have the idea, I'm not saying it's true, but just for this, that might be the way that we may want to look at vibration, because in a sense, let's think about that situation. I'd done nothing in relationship to that. I wasn't thinking about a car crash or anything like that. It just happened. Vibration, from my perspective now, is not how you attract things. Vibration is about how resilient you are and how you respond to those attracted things, to those things in your life. Remember, the great saying is, it doesn't matter what happens in your life, it's about how you respond. Now, the ego goes, no, but I want everything in this life. I want all of these wonderful things, doesn't it? And we recognize it inside of ourselves. So what do we think the highest vibration is? Maybe it's love, right? And so can I respond? Because that's my responsibility, isn't it? Think about the word, responsibility. My ability to respond to situations. In fact, it's all we have. It's our free will. It's how I respond to things. And I tend to, and my teacher has been saying and implying to me for a long, long time, stop judging life, Jamie. And we recognize we do it, isn't it? But in that judgment of life, what we've said, because implied in any judgment, is I know better. And do we know better than life? No. If that car crash hadn't happened, would I be able to talk about this today? No. And everything's always working out for me. It's the same for everybody, actually. It's just whether we're conscious of it or not, because that is love. We are that love. Even the ego inside of ourselves is a manifestation of love because it's there to protect us. God or life loves us. And if we can stay in a positive state of being when we're experiencing even dark times, like the dark night of the soul, right? We talk a lot about this on YouTube. But even in the car crash, somehow the training kicked in and there was just peace as a response. Now, that's what vibration's about, isn't it? How we can respond to life. Am I life positive in my responses, or am I life negative? Is there a value in everything that I experience? The answer is yes. If I stay in a positive state, I will receive that benefit. Now, the crazy thing is, they wrote off my car, and I probably shouldn't say this out in public, but they're going to pay me more than I paid for the car. Now, is there a link between the way I responded to this situation and then what was manifested? Who knows? But what we want to be feeling inside of ourselves is we want to train ourselves away from unconscious negative responses to life, isn't it? Whatever happens, because in my negative response to life, who gets hurt? it's me, isn't it? It's not anybody else, although that might be the after effect. I might get angry at the girlfriend or something, or snap out at a client, you know. But who gets hurt? It's me. And so it's always best, to the best of our ability, to be able to respond in a positive way. Now that takes time and training. That takes a really mature nervous system, and that's why we do the yoga and the breathing practices that we do here. Because we're training the nervous system to not care about what happens in life, but it doesn't matter to me, you know? It's like we're slowly becoming okay with what was meant for me, even if we judge it. And Lord knows, the way I was brought up, I judged the hell out of who I'd become in relationship to this, because it's not normal, it's not typical, right, to my old friend group. But then in time, as we continue to respond positively to things, we become a better person. And now I can happily say that I'm truly proud of the person I've become and will continue to become. And that's a promise for all of us, so long as we can begin changing those responses, changing the nervous system, strengthening it in a way so that we become very resilient to life, and life positive in our response to it. I don't know if this helps, but let me know if it did. And have a great evening. Namaste.